Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Works down by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Welcome in. Happy Thursday to everybody. Hope you're doing well. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition with me as always. How are you, sir?
Jim, I'm doing great. How are you?
Cannot complain. The weather has been spectacular. Trying to catch up on a little rest, to be honest with you.
This is the season.
It's been strange.
This is the season for it. I mean, we've had a lot to talk about because all the NBA playoffs have been pushing later. Baseball's underway, and you've got some changes with Indiana basketball, and obviously things going well on the football end. So we've had a lot to talk about. But June and July, it's like the sports writers' little time to break, or sports broadcasters' time to get a little bit of a break. But yeah, we've been churning it out. There's been no rest wicked here.
No, it's recruiting information, which we have more of that today, and we'll have more tomorrow with a recap with Alec Lasley. But Indiana has had a ton of visits since the June 1st opening happened. They've had, 7 or 8 combined official and unofficial, but quite a few. Talent coming through, nonetheless. That's the most important thing. Getting them on campus, but there's all kinds of things to talk about. Little League World Series comes up this year. We get to watch. Looking forward to that. The College World Series is they're still in the Super Regionals, I believe, right?
I think so.
Former IU coach Terry Lamonis, did he just wrap up another Super Regional win? I have to pull that up. I know they won yesterday, I believe, or maybe they're in. That was the first game of their current series. Carmel High School has got multiple swimmers going to the Olympics. Indiana has multiple swimmers going to the Olympics. Just all kinds of stuff going on that doesn't stop. So yeah, there you go.
Well, that's the other part of it. I keep forgetting that we're looking at the Olympics here. We didn't have that last year, obviously, so I keep forgetting that aspect of this. And there's just so much going on. And U.S. Open coverage starts today, so that ought to be fun. Let's see if we get a Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka pairing at any point during the Open.
Yeah, that's where is the Open being held?
Is it Torrey Pines? I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought I saw that it was Torrey Pines. I should know.
Well, we'll certainly find out. That says it's the wrong one. European Tour. Why did that come up? I don't know why that did that. U.S. Open, but yeah, and you know what? The U.S. Open is always the absolute craziest tough. It is. I don't know if it was last year or the year before last. There was a green. I remember it was basically you were putting in a toilet because you would have to putt. And it would go around and it would circle the green like it was going down the drain. Yep. It was the nuttiest. I'm like, oh my God, how do they even design that? But it's like playing at the Ross course. Buddy, there are no gimme. There are every putt on every green on the Ross course has got an angle. Everyone. Unless you're sticking it this close, 2 feet away, you're going to have an angle.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's usually not my game either. I have enough trouble putting on a flat surface, just trying to get it into the hole. So I can't imagine. But the U.S. Open, the Masters obviously has all the prestige, and it's obviously a lot of fun to watch. But the U.S. Open has always been my favorite tournament because you might see one year a guy shoot 6 under, and another year you might see a guy win and it's 2 over. I remember when this was 20 years ago when they first went to Bethpage Black. up in New York, and what a fun tournament that was to watch, and Shinnecock Hills. And this is the ultimate challenge. This is the ultimate 4-day challenge, in my opinion. And this is why it's such a fun golf tournament to watch. Like I said, everybody's going to watch the Masters. It's the prestige. It's the green jacket. It's the top of the line. But the U.S. Open is always my favorite because anything can happen. And it's not uncommon to see a guy shoot 3 under one day and then 6 over the next. It's just such a tough tournament. They pick the toughest courses in the country, and it's just so much fun.
Phil Mickelson, of course, eyes will be on him after his old man victory at 50. This is another monster here.
Oh yeah,
and you can't expect a lot, but there will be a lot of eyes on him. He's the elder statesman. You don't have a Tiger Woods, so he's the grand poobah, I guess you'd say. Of golfers, seriously, that's left, that's competing, that's up in that level. I can't think of anybody. I'm sure there may be a guy that's playing in it, some that are older because they can, but
right.
I'm talking about that's seriously competitive to win this thing.
Yeah, no, I think
he's.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anybody else either. The one thing that's interesting is Ricky Fowler this year. He didn't make qualifying this year, and so he was up and comer, and he still is. But he's kind of had that burden of not winning a major championship, and so. Disappointed to not see him in, but he just wasn't able to make the cut.
Ricky Fowler needs to focus a little bit less on his wardrobe, a little bit more on his game, a little less on matching these funky colors, man.
I bet he gets paid to match those funky colors. Though.
Absolutely. Of course, you have said there's no Tiger Woods report because of the accident that he had, and so we don't know when or if he'll. I'm sure he'll come back, but. Who knows when?
There's 2 things I'm rooting for this time. I'm rooting for a Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau pairing, and I'm also pulling for John Rahm, just because of what happened. What was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, when he couldn't play because he tested positive and he couldn't finish his round. He had a big lead.
Sis, that's just ridiculous. That is the utterly most ridiculous thing.
I agree. I don't know why, and I mean, I understand a little bit of this, but I don't understand why he played that full round before anybody let him know. The full third round. I don't know why he couldn't have played by himself with maybe
he could have
study on that final day. Maybe it's a competitive advantage. I don't know. But
competitive advantage of having COVID.
No. Of playing by himself. If he would have played that final round by himself, if he wanted to, with no gallery or anything like that. He
didn't even have to be by himself. I mean, my God, you're out there. You're already out there with nothing but space around you.
That's true. Yeah.
I would have followed him with no problem, with no qualms on the golf course, knowing that he was positive. I wouldn't give a. He's going to be 50 yards away from me at all times.
Great point.
Outside. I'm like, morons. That through the whole COVID thing, that was the part of the moronic part.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the bars and restaurants where you couldn't sit at the actual bar, but we'll put a table right next to the bar and you can actually sit next to the bar. Yeah. That's okay because that makes total sense. It's the moronic things that people do. The governments, it's the idiocy. It's like, okay, let's just go right to being an idiot. That was the deal.
Elected officials. That's what we,
Glenn's up and at it this morning. How are you doing, brother? But so Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth are your pre-champion favorites. So there you go. Not Mr. Bryson DeChambeau.
Big hitter. Man.
Big hitter. What's because the U.S. Open does not play for big hitters. We just talked about it. It plays. You got to have touch, man. You've got to have touch on these in and around these greens. You've got to get the ball as closest to the hole as possible. And then sometimes it still doesn't matter.
I mean, I know I don't know what his fairway percentage is, but I know he's fairly accurate too, even with those long. But a lot of times at these U.S. Open courses, you hit it in the rough, and it's going to be tough to get on the green in two. because that's thick. They don't cut that stuff at these U.S. Open courses. So that's another thing that could factor in. If you hit it, you could hit it 350, 400 yards, but if you can't get it out of the rough, you're in big trouble.
Koepka, of course, won back-to-back U.S. Open titles in 2017 and 18. Spieth is the 2015 champion. So we'll see what they can do. It'll be fun to watch. It always is, man. It's always that's one. It's always just fun to watch, just because it makes super golfers look ordinary sometimes. And it's not that we want to see them embarrassed, but it's good to see, like, dang, he can do that. I just did that yesterday.
Right.
And by that, I mean hitting a horrible shot.
Yeah. It creates this, there's almost like it's a relatability. You're like, oh man, I know what it's like to chunk that second or third shot or miss this putt by 6 feet. You feel like you're related to them a little bit more because of their struggles on the course. Even though we went out there, we would look so much worse than any of these guys, even with their worst shot. So it's just, nobody can go out. No average golfer can go out and shoot, whatever, -12 at Augusta. So that's not really relatable, but anybody can go out and shoot +10, So that's why it's always fun. And this is after each tournament's when I always get the additional itch to go out and play. I mean, I'm always wanting to play golf, but after a big tournament, I want to get out the course 3 or 4 times in the next week. So we'll see if I get that accomplished this next week.
When we come back, a couple things to talk about in the NBA. What's that coach's name that's coaching the Atlanta Hawks? Can't quite remember his name. There's for some reason there was some familiarity with him.
Who was that?
The coach of the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, Nate McMillan.
Yes, I'm kidding. I'm being facetious. They're a win. Did they win the series?
No,
they're one win away. They're one win away from moving on to the third round. That is going to make somebody in Indianapolis look really, really stupid.
Yeah.
Not that they aren't already kind of looking bad, but we'll talk about that when we come back. Also, what did I just see? Oh, yes. The new LA Bowl in college is going to be called the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. Oh. I'm not kidding. Goofy stuff, man. We'll be back with more of it.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking... Hey, what happened in Philly last night?
Man, Philly I think they were up by like 25 points in the first half, and then the meltdown, yeah. I turned it off.
The Hawks.
I turned it off thinking it was over at halftime, and then I came back and I flipped it over just to see, and Atlanta was within 6. So then I watched the final, 3-4 minutes. It was a meltdown
of epic proportions.
Yeah. Sorry, my thing refreshed or backed out or something right before you started talking about the Hawks.
Yeah, I noticed I was starting to freak out because yesterday Dylan Sim was having connection issues. I was like, what is going on, man?
Yeah, it says I'm at full strength, so
I'm sure it was just a little mishap. I'm sure you're fine.
Hopefully.
Just a little mishap.
So if you ask me something,
just a little mishap.
But that was the thing. Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to talk to Chris Denari about is McMillan 1 win away, Paul George 1 win away. Neither guy could get over the hump, really.
Purdue's Edie invited to play for the Canadian team. See, Purdue has a bunch of anti-Americans. Purdue is anti-American.
Is that what that is?
That's what I'm going to say.
There you go.
Because it's funny. Do you know Purdue basketball blocked me on Twitter?
What'd
really?
you do?
Yes.
What did you do?
I have no idea.
You harassed them, didn't you?
No. I've never harassed anyone.
Schutte, they might be blocking you soon after your comments about their football stuff yesterday.
Oh, okay. No. Why would you I don't understand. So, like I wrote on Twitter, it's either going to be like he really likes how all three of those guys work together, or he doesn't trust one of them. He's like, I can't trust any of you. So you're all three going to do this.
It just seems so ridiculous. You couldn't find one guy to be a defensive coordinator, whether it's somebody who's already in the program or not.
Oh, yeah. I've got that list here to talk about. You talking about Purdue?
Yeah. Brad
Got
Lamb,
that.
he just coached. I mean, the dude, Marshall had the best statistical. I know it's Conference USA, but they had the best.
All right, I got to bring this back in. We only got a few seconds left.
Long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Thursday. Hope it's going well for you. Getting close to the end of the week. Weather's been good. Got a good weekend coming up. Looking forward to it. All kinds of sports going on. U.S. Open, golf. You've got tennis. Let's see. Oh, the top 100 is coming up this weekend. The showcase up in Indianapolis. Tons of coaches will be there for that. First time they can get out and watch these guys. So that'll be something interesting going on. So, again, no rest for the wicked, man. It keeps going.
That's
Purdue's Edie invited to play for the Canadian national team. See, Purdue is anti-American. They got a bunch of anti-Americans on their team. I'm just kidding. But let's talk about this defensive staff. Jeff Brom is their defense was like trying to catch water in a net last year. Just not happening. It's just not going to happen.
That's the perfect description. And it's not just been last year. It's actually been the last 3 years. And now they're on their third. What I don't understand is, so in case people don't know, they have three defensive coordinators or three
as of yesterday.
Yeah, three co-defensive coordinators. 4 of their 5 defensive staff members have some sort of coordinator in their title. So to me, either one of two things is true here. Either Jeff Brom really trusts and likes how those 3 guys works together and thinks that they all bring something different to the table, or he doesn't trust one of them to run the defense. And that's a problem. You brought in Brad Lambert, who was the defensive coordinator at Marshall a season ago. Statistically, the best defense or the top 3 defense in college football, which I understand it's Conference USA. You're not going up against the cream of the crop. But nonetheless, I mean, to do that against some quality teams in that league, I thought you would have brought him in to run the show. But clearly that's not the case. And I don't really – I mean, to me, I've said that I'm a big Jeff Brom fan. I think he's a great fit, much like Tom Allen is at Indiana. I think he's got that blue collar – I'm going to work my butt off to win games. And I think Purdue appreciates that. And the style of offense he runs really fits the mold of what they like there in West Lafayette. But, man, this is a pivotal year. And if you don't get this right, another losing season, or if you're not in a bowl game this year, the writing could be on the wall for him. I mean, I don't know where Purdue would go. But the further and further we get – I mean – that Ohio State win is in the rearview mirror. You've got to start piling up wins. They're 6-12 in their last 2 seasons. So they needed to make. Bob Diaco was a terrible hire. I think Jeff Brown would tell you that. If you could talk to him off the record. But man, 3 maybe it takes 3 defensive coordinators to fix what he broke. I have no idea. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, because I promise you, had you in the beginning said, "All right, I'm going to give you a bet, you're going to make a bet here, and you can pick Tom Allen or you can pick Jeff Brom for $10 million. Just pick who's going to have the most successful first 4-year run or whatever." And 10,000 times out of 10,000 times, I would have picked Jeff Brom because I'm a big fan of what I know. I know what he's capable of. I know him. He's a smart guy. He's a good coach. I'm shocked at how horribly it has worked out at Purdue. Now, injuries have been a part of that because he's had Rondale Moore and David Bell at the same time, but not. They've never had a quarterback.
Nope.
A good quarterback. That's killing them because had they, but and their defense has sucked.
Oh yeah, it's been
and their offense has been inconsistent. So it has just not worked at all. And I'm just blown away. This is a situation where I'm blown away that this hadn't worked. This is not an Archie Miller kind of a thing. This dude is good. He's going to, I expected him to leave this job to go on to Notre Dame.
Right. Well,
but
the thing that's crazy to me is I don't really, it doesn't really make any sense. So he comes to Purdue. He takes the team that was at the bottom of the Big Ten for 4 or 5 straight years. He turns them into a bowl eligible team. And his first game, they went toe to toe with Louisville and Lamar Jackson. Then the next year they go 6-6 again. They beat Ohio State. They're recruiting at a top 25, top 35 level. And then, I mean, like you said, there's injuries there, and it goes kerplunk. That, like, we've seen no improvement over the last 2 seasons. I mean, maybe some of that gets remedied this year, but they had the worst recruiting class in the Big Ten in 2021, 77th nationally. I mean, that's not good. That's a problem. So I'm really curious. One thing I think I'm gonna say this, and I wonder if people will agree with this or not. But I almost think it's a blessing that Rondale Moore isn't there this year, because when he was on the field and he was available, they tried too hard to get him the ball. It was kind of like Whop Phillier in the Outback Bowl. I mean, they tried to get him the ball way too much, and defenses could focus on him. Even though you had David Bell, even though you had some of these other receivers, Milton Wright, some of these other guys who can make plays, it seemed like a concerted effort just to get him the ball, get the ball in his hands. And obviously he's a great player, but when defenses are gunning for that, that's going to blow up your whole offensive scheme. So I'm curious to see what the offense looks like. And I don't think losing Rondale Moore is the worst thing in the world for Purdue. I think they'll spread the ball out a little bit better this season, but we'll see.
Yeah, but offensively, what do they have at quarterback? I mean, running back, line. They just, as a program, if you look at what Tom Allen has built,
yes,
a legit Big Ten championship contending program. Purdue has just been in a spin cycle, man. They've gone nowhere.
And
zero.
This is why I say I think Jeff Brom is a great coach, but I think that this speaks to how important culture is within a program. Look at Tom Allen with LEO. It's not like Indiana has the talent of Ohio State or Michigan or even Penn State, but they're competing at that level. Like they're going toe to toe with some of those big boys, and that's
without that talent.
And same thing with Minnesota. I mean, you could put Minnesota and Indiana are basically in the same, not to use the pun here, but they're in the same boat. They don't have a ton of talent. It's all about the culture, man. That's why Minnesota went 11-2 in 2019. That's why Indiana can compete this year. You don't see it. Purdue, I mean, it's like Minnesota and Indiana are the 2 similarities, and then Nebraska and Purdue are the 2 similarities. Nebraska and Purdue, in my opinion, have way more talent than Minnesota and Indiana, but the culture's not there. I mean, I'm not in the locker rooms. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not saying it's a culture problem. I'm just saying they don't have that kind of foundation that they have, that PJ Fleck or Tom Allen has. And I think you're seeing that make a big difference.
Yeah, and I would venture to say that Indiana actually has better talent, not recruited talent, but developed talent, because they've been able to take these 3-stars and turn them into All-Americans. So that's another thing. You've got pure development going on. When you see a 3-star become an All-American, whoo, that's not a 5-star coming in. It's built in, man. So they're doing that with development. And now I think this recruiting is going to come. Last year was not, you're not going to get it last year. This year, Indiana needs to see a pop in recruiting. They've got to see it has got to translate this season. If it doesn't translate this season, then it's my people that tells me that recruits still have questions.
Well,
if it doesn't happen this year,
I think it's gonna benefit. I think the biggest thing for Indiana in this recruiting class not only is going to be the wins but it's going to be that face-to-face interaction. It's going to be getting on campus, seeing what Bloomington is like in the fall. It's going to be, this is where we talk about Indiana fans have to show up to games because that's going to make a huge difference to recruits. If they go to, they play Ohio State at Memorial Stadium. If that stadium is half full or 3/4 full, that's not a good sign. You want to see that place packed, jam-packed, wall-to-wall. Doesn't even matter what the record is at that point. You got to see that place filled to the brim. That's going to help recruiting. So Indiana needs to see that aspect of it. But I also think meeting Tom Allen face-to-face, meeting some of these players, the Reese Taylors, the Tywan Mullins, the guys that have that little bit of edge, that little bit of attitude, and telling them, hey, come to Indiana because we're gonna compete for Big Ten championships. We're gonna get developed. We're gonna go to the NFL. I think that's gonna make a huge difference, and I think that you'll see a bump in Indiana's recruiting. I'm not saying they're gonna have a top 25 class, but you get into that top 35, into the top 30s. You're looking at what we've seen from the development standpoint. That's gonna be a good football program.
Absolutely. See, Pete asked about when we get back to it, and the rumors on the Pacers' next head coach. I haven't. I mean, other than what we've already talked about, I'm sure that they're talking to those guys. Terry Stotts is a name that's at the top. I'd like to see that just for the coolness factor of that.
Yeah.
Guy from Bloomington, and then who's the other? Is it Pritchard that's actually also from Bloomington?
I couldn't tell you. I don't think so.
I believe that, which is weird. But yeah. That would just be cool to see a guy that went to high school in Bloomington end up being the coach of the Pacers. I mean, it's wild.
Well, I mean,
but he's also been successful too.
Yeah, I mean, he coached one of the best players in the league, Damian Lillard. So, and
it would be a coming home party. He never played college in Indiana. He left and played at Oklahoma. Unfortunately he was an Indiana All-Star, but unfortunately it was in 1976. Indiana had a pretty good team back then.
They didn't need
recall. But that's still weird to be in Bloomington, to be that good, and not end up at IU. It's still mind-boggling. But the Open is at Torrey Pines. It's been delayed 15 minutes because of fog, according to Ed. Thank you, Ed. I play best in the fog. I do.
See ya?
Because I just hit that mic. Man, that felt good. That's got to be good.
Right down.
That ball. It's right down Broadway, baby.
And you can just pull
Tim asks, "What's the first player you think of when you see the IU basketball logo?"
What's the what?
What's the IU basketball logo?
The intersecting IU.
That's the trident. That's just. That's not a basketball logo, so not sure what that's about. Yeah, it'd be nice if he could drag Lillard to Indy. Indy needs a Lillard. Until they have a superstar, show me a team that wins a championship that doesn't have superstars on it. Who's winning a championship that doesn't have a superstar or stars?
Yeah, you got to have at least one. I mean, Toronto.
Who's in the finals that doesn't have one? At least one.
Great question. Toronto is probably the closest from a few years ago with Kawhi, but even they had Kawhi Leonard, and I think he's incredibly underrated still.
Yeah, he's really considered.
He's a superstar. I'm just saying that was the closest team to win a championship without a ton of superstar talent
And he had a great cast around him.
Yes, he did. He did. That team,
I think they played well together.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I don't think there was a lot of egos, but Kawhi Leonard, I would put in that category that could carry a team. He carried that team, and they had a great supporting cast. But who's Karis LeVert, as good as he is, I don't see him carrying the Pacers. Sabonis, who's going to carry them? Somebody has to be able to put them on their back night after night and carry them. Even Victor Oladipo ended up not being that guy.
Right. And a lot of people put the emphasis on Sabonis. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think I think he's too much of a defensive liability. I just, on the offensive side, he's great. He does a lot of really good things, but I still prefer Miles Turner. Maybe that's because he's been here longer. I just like the athleticism he brings to the floor. I don't know. I know a lot of people want to see Miles go. I would prefer he stay, but we'll see what happens. We got to find a head coach for. I say we, as if I'm part of the organization, but the Pacers have to find a head coach first.
Pete wants Lillard, Brogdon, LeVert, Sabonis, and Warren. There you go.
Oh yeah, that's it. There.
Now see, that's a great supporting cast. That's beyond a good supporting cast. That is probably a better supporting cast than that was up in Toronto.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I would take Brogdon, LeVert, Sabonis, and Warren over OG and his three counterparts. Not Kawhi Leonard, but right. OG and his three counterparts. I love OG, but these four right here, Brogdon, LeVert, Sabonis, Warren. No, they're really they're starters. They're NBA starters. And
what we've discovered is that the Pacers really just don't have a leader. I mean, that's what it boils. I think they have talent, and I'm not saying they have the talent to win an NBA championship. They just lack a leader. They need a guy, as we talked about before, an Al Jefferson, a David West, somebody to come in and just say, "This is my team."
George Jefferson.
So we'll see if they get one of those guys, but they need something like that. They need somebody to step up and lead the team.
Well, we'll have Chris Denari on later in the next hour. We can talk to him a little bit more about that, but there's plenty going on to talk about. It doesn't end, which is the great thing now that we're getting back in the swing of things. Even Little League baseball, man, people going out to watch Little League games everywhere. I don't know what you guys have planned for the summer. Even the Taste of Bloomington is back this weekend on Saturday. And so festivals are coming back. That's great to see people getting out and about. So just loving that. Football, we're less than 80 days. That's just barely over 2 months, man.
Yep.
And it will be here before you know it. And I'm jacked. I don't want to get to fall because I don't want to lose my summer, but I'm jacked about football. I'm jacked about people in the stands, about that noise, about that roar, that kickoff.
Yep.
I mean, I will be standing outside when the press box when the kickoff happens. It's just going to be, man. For a minute, I was like, "We're going to get this back," but in Iowa City, I'm looking forward to being in Iowa City on September 4th.
It's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot.
That is going to be an absolute blast. It should be a hell of a game on top of that.
Should be a hell of a game, and you get to experience the wave. That's the best thing in college football right now is that wave. So that's going to be awesome.
I believe everybody is on campus now for IU basketball. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Miller Kopp was the last to arrive, I believe. Or Durr, I can't remember, but we've got plenty more to get to, and we'll do it when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for
Hey, Jim, I forgot to tell you earlier, I put some of the Dick Vitale clips in if you want me to tell you what they're about in case you want to reference them, unless you just don't think you'll use them today.
Yeah, today's a great day. You guys are awesome, baby, with a capital A.
Well, when you're ready to write them down, I'll let you know what each of them. I got 4 of them right now.
What are they?
So the first one I have is him talking about Bob Knight's return. It's about 2 minutes.
Yep.
And I didn't include you asking the questions, just Dickie V talking.
All right.
And then the next two are both about Mike Woodson. The first one is just about what he thinks of him and the hire in general. The second Mike Woodson clip is about how it's a love affair and how it could turn sideways quickly if the losses pile up, that kind of thing. And then the last one is him talking about how the transfer portal is chaotic and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a great segue there from Dickie. It's a great hire, but if he doesn't win, they're going to kick his ass out of Bloomington.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I really don't either.
When you get talent, see, people kept thinking that Archie had talent.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck are you all thinking? I'm like, what are you all looking at? Anybody would say that. I was like, are you absolutely out of your freaking mind?
You and I will disagree on this to the grave. You know why? He just didn't develop the talent he had.
Okay, I agree with that. But all right, of the guys, the 5 guys he started last year, watch how many of those 5 start this year.
I mean, people had problems with Justin Smith, right? He played pretty well at Arkansas.
You don't think Race Thompson will start? I think he might start.
I would not be surprised if 1 out of the 5 start.
I don't know.
Well, and that'll be Trace Jackson Davis.
You think Race Thompson's going to start over Chris Durr?
You mean Michael Durr?
Michael Durr, rather.
And he could. I think he could. It depends on if he wants to go big or small.
Here's the thing: they're gonna get the. We should probably save this, but they're gonna get the kind of coach that they never got.
This is what we. This is a great. We'll talk about this.
We're coming back. We're coming back, so that's good.
Lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Thursday. Indiana basketball has been very busy with visits. What did I say we were going to talk about, though, first?
Development, recruiting.
Oh, I did? So I didn't – I want to make sure we didn't jump something. But, yeah, just as far as Indiana basketball, the influx of talent is going to be greatly enhanced. Already has been. Anything that they've lost, in my opinion, they have gained. They've replaced and gained. You look at Hunter, or at his position, you've got a better shooter, a better statistical player. Armand, I think you got a better statistical player in replacement already. So they've already gained in that regard. And then the talent that's coming in is way better than the talent that was brought in prior to, especially last year. I mean, you look at the guys that are coming in this class versus last class, no offense to those guys, that this is just better caliber of players, period. I do agree with you that they weren't developed. They weren't developed at all, and that hurts them, but they're still better. I mean, these are top 50 guys that are coming in.
Well,
plural.
Well, I was going to say, I think that you make a good point. I think that the caliber of player that Mike Woodson is bringing in is probably better. But we've had this discussion multiple times. We'll say that talent was a problem under Archie Miller. I just don't agree with that. I mean, Indiana had the talent. If you would have put them under about 8 or 9 different head coaches in the Big Ten, they would have finished top 5 every year and been in the in-state tournament. I think they were that good.
Okay, I would agree with you there. Top 5 in the league?
Yes, top 5 in the Big Ten, yeah.
Exactly, and that's all they would have ever done. That would have been their ceiling because that's all the talent level he can get. This talent that's coming in now, this is going to be competing at the top of the Big Ten for a Big Ten title and competing nationally. And I'm not saying next season, but That's where they're heading with that level of talent, because it's just a higher look at the bench last year. There was a reason there was 2 open scholarships, because nobody wanted to come play for Archie Miller. No out-of-state guys were coming to play for Archie Miller. No, name me a coach in America that had 2 damn open scholarships that needed players worse than anybody on the freaking planet. Yeah. We're going to bank these. Yeah, you're going to bank them because nobody will take the damn things.
Well, okay. This is the point I'm going to make. If you give me, I'm just going to make this reference. If you give me Purdue's roster and you give me Indiana's roster from last season, I would have taken Indiana's roster. Purdue finished top 4 in the Big Ten. If you would have now look at where Purdue's headed this year. People have them pegged as a top 5 team. You're telling me if you would have given Matt Painter last year's Indiana team, I guarantee you they would have been a Big Ten contender. Tom Izzo, Juwan Howard.
They didn't have the guard play. They didn't have shooting. They did not have shooting or guard play.
They didn't get it developed. That's the problem.
Well, there's some to that, but I think the players are better. I mean,
well, I agree with you. I think the talent coming in,
Purdue's freshmen were better.
The starting point is higher and the ceiling is higher. I'm just saying, Indiana, if you give that roster to Tom Izzo, Matt Painter, Chris Holtman, Juwan Howard, that team would be competing. I'm not saying they would be competing every single year, but they'd be a top 5 team in the Big Ten, and they would be in that Big Ten title conversation, in my opinion.
And the thing is, though, they're doing this. They're going to be doing this year after year. They're already 22 and 23. These are all big-time players. And I've said this over and over. You need the kids from Indiana because they're great players. Yes. But there are elite players. There are from outside of this state. And that's why you still have to land the Tabors, or whomever it is, Durs, the guys that were in yesterday. I mean, neither of those guys, Kyle Filipkowski and Justin Taylor, those are the guys I'm talking about. You've got to get those guys to be a national contender. That's what I think is going to keep Purdue back. They're going to remain a regional school. They've got regional talent. They're going to be okay, and they've always been a regional school.
Hold them back. What? Now, hold on. I'm confused by this because nobody recruited.
Has Purdue done it? What Purdue has done anything nationally ever?
But I'm telling you, listen. Carson Edwards was a 3-star guard, and he turned into an NBA had one of the greatest NCAA tournament runs we've ever of recent memory. Kemba Walker was up in that category. The development matters. I'm not saying that Indiana with Mike Woodson and the way he's recruiting and the development ability of that staff, in my opinion. Now I don't know those guys. In my opinion, yes, Indiana will be competing for Final Fours, national titles, Big Ten titles, what have you. But I think Purdue's more of a developmental program, and I think they haven't done anything nationally. You're correct, but they were a crazy shot away, the final 6 seconds away from beating the national champions. And
anybody can do it once, man. Doing it once.
Here we go.
I'm just saying. You have a run. Having a run one time is nice and all, but that's one run. They turned around last year and get beat by nobody.
That's true. That's a fair criticism. But
so I'm not going to give just because they had one run in a year. Yeah, that's nice. They had a run because they had a guy who's playing in the NBA.
But
so was that development or is that because he's a really great player?
He was only a 3, but you're arguing that Purdue doesn't get those guys, and that's what's holding them back. Carson Edwards was a 3-star recruit, a 3-star out of Texas, big time. I mean, I think some of those schools down south wanted him, but I don't think
he's kind of like a Victor Oladipo.
Yeah,
Victor Oladipo's better, but Victor Oladipo was a 3-star, developed in. Tom Crean was great at developing, getting guys to develop. But I also think that his issues would have always and will always keep him where he is, struggling. He's going to be out of Georgia soon. I mean, he's just going to struggle. He's never going to be a big-time coach. He's a guy that can churn in the middle and maybe do this and do that. He's just not going to be a big-time coach. Guys don't want to play for him. The big-time elite guys don't want to play for him. We've seen it when you can see year over year, and they either want to play for a coach or they don't. And there's certain, and I'm not saying Matt Painter's a great coach. There are guys that want to play for him.
Right.
I just don't think they don't have the national brand to go out and recruit. Who?
No, I agree. I agree with that.
Like Filipkowski, Justin, these guys, they're not going to Purdue.
Right.
These guys are not going to Purdue. They will come to Indiana though, but they're not going to Purdue, and that's why Indiana, within a year or two, is going to be back on the national stage. And Purdue can compete with Indiana within the conference, but it's like once you get them outside of that, their whole focus seems to be on the Big Ten, because their entire success in basketball is the Big Ten. They've won a ton of Big Ten titles.
Mm-hmm.
They've done basically nothing nationally.
Right.
So when you're talking 100 and something years, you've had more than your chances to do something.
I agree. No, I agree with everything you just said. My only point is I think what you've seen from Matt Painter during his time there, what you've seen on their staff, I think that they develop talent really, really well. I don't think that the 5-star.
I agree with that.
And they get the guys to stick around, usually 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big focus. So
that tells you something else too. If you got that many guys that are staying 3 and 4 years, that means you don't have elite players.
Right. But no, and I agree with that. I just don't think that that's what's holding them back, because we've seen teams. I mean, you look back at that. Wisconsin had Frank Kaminsky. They had some really good players, so maybe that's a bad example. But I look at that undefeated Wisconsin team, or undefeated Kentucky team going into the Final Four. Nobody gave Wisconsin any chance, and I mean that was.
Oh, I agree.
They had some NBA talent on that team, but it wasn't like it was like the Harlem Globetrotters.
But that's not a Purdue type team. Here's another example. Indiana has been down. I would say, the program, not down, but it has not been Indiana for quite some time.
Nope. Right.
But right now in the NBA, Purdue has all of 2 players in the NBA. Indiana has 9.
Yeah.
9 alumni in the NBA, even during their downtime. That's my point, man.
Yeah.
Indiana is a national school, a national brand. They've just fallen on some hard times. That's what's going to make it for them to bounce back so quickly and easily.
Right.
They have a fan base that is just sometimes ridiculously rabid, but rabid. And that is an advantage, because you just got to pour a little bit of water on the magic beanstalk beans, and that stalk grows really fast. Yeah. Now, you've got to make sure you've got the right roots and all that. I think they've got that with Mike Woodson and Dane Fife and Thad Matta and all that. They've got that this time. They don't have that. I don't even know what you call what was last. It was just that was a farce. That was a farce. I mean, a complete, total farce. It's not the case right now. And Mike Woodson, he's got I don't want to say the pressure, but he knows the spotlight that's on him. This is a big old light, because if you do this, if you bring Indiana back to relevance, to prominence, holy crap, that's going to put you in a lot of people's minds. I don't want to say Bob Knight, but man, that's Indiana basketball, or like Kentucky or Duke, or those things, that's big. They're just big. When you talk about the Yankees and Notre Dame football and Indiana basketball and North Carolina basketball, those are just different programs from anything else in their sport, and they just are, and it's just a fact.
Well,
but Indiana's got to get back there.
Not only does he have the thing I like, and I didn't like this at first, but I think that this, we talk about not having any college experience, but I think what helps him not only is the ties to Indiana, knowing the pride and the passion and having ties to Bob Knight, but I think that also being a head coach for the New York Knicks, I mean, that spotlight is always on him. So he knows that even in today's age, he's going to have a ton of attention because he's the head coach at Indiana. He had to deal with that. I mean, you deal with that in the NBA even more so when you're the head coach of the New York Knicks. I mean, that's one of the top 3 franchises in the NBA with the Lakers and the Celtics. So even though they've not been good recently, but I think that having that experience prepares him. And we're talking about 2 different. I mean, I just think it prepares him having that spotlight, knowing there's going to be pressure, along with the ties to Indiana, playing at Indiana, playing under Bob Knight. I think that he's going to be really, really well prepared for that kind of pressure.
Well, he's got Dane Fife, who is also probably taking on. I wouldn't be surprised if Dane's taking on more pressure, actually, because Mike is just a pro. He's just, he's been doing this. Mm-hmm. He's been doing it in the NBA. And that matters because they learn to do it as a pro. They learn to accept things. And I'm not saying they're not worried about losses or this and that, but you don't see it. They are a lot better at compartmentalizing and always being professional. But Dane's got that vim and vigor, but he's got that IU, still has that IU fight. Mm-hmm. So he's got that to help him out with that as well. So it's just going to be a great situation. You got Thad Matta, who's looking for redemption, not redemption, but a new challenge. Yeah. I mean, he didn't want to leave Ohio State.
No.
He didn't leave voluntarily. So anytime you're in the game, and I don't care what game it is, but anytime you're in the game and you're successful at the game and you leave before you want to leave, man, you want back in. You want to be able just to compete to whatever it is that's driving you. Gosh, it doesn't go away. His knowledge doesn't go away. The desire to use that knowledge and that challenge. It's like playing chess. Well, I coached high school football, and that's what I equated it to. I was always a defensive coordinator. It was chess. I was playing chess with the offensive coordinator every time. Right. Except it's just live action. I'm like guessing on the situations on what to do. I'm like, well, we need to do this because I think they're going to do that. It's a chess move, and those guys love those chess moves. They love those challenges, and that's why I know people don't understand that. But if you haven't done it, you don't understand that it's a thrill that you get. It's just what drives people, just like finding the cure to certain diseases drive other people.
Well, and I also think
which is a lot more important than what I'm talking about.
Obviously, Thad Matta wanted back in, or else he wouldn't have taken this job. But I also think that Thad Matta taking this job, I also think speaks to the faith that he has in Indiana's program and the staff and the hire of Mike Woodson and Scott Dolson as the athletic director. Because, I mean, Thad Matta accomplished a lot. He went to back-to-back national championship games. He won the Big Ten a couple times. He was successful in the Big Ten tournament. Like, they accomplished a lot at Ohio State. It wasn't like he wasn't going to take a job just to take a job, I don't think. I think he wanted to make sure we can be successful. We can be competing for the Big Ten title. We can be in the Final Four, competing for national championships. I truly believe he thinks that, and because otherwise I don't think he would have taken this job. I mean, I don't think he's looking for a rebuilding project. And I know Indiana will be kind of a rebuilding project.
I disagree that it's a rebuilding project. I think they're already better right now than at any point of the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, but what I say when I say rebuilding, I'm saying you have to get a team that hasn't made the tournament since 2015-16.
They'll be in the tournament next year.
They will be, but you're trying to get them back to the Final Four national championships. That's not going to happen this year. So this is like you have to take that one step to get to the next step. I don't think it's going to be long. I think it's going to be 1 or 2 years. But that's what I'm saying. It's not. I
agree that it will be 1 or 2 years before they're capable because of a lot of things. The transfer portal.
Yep.
Big. That's the biggest change right there. You can almost transform a team in a single season.
Oh yeah, you could. Absolutely.
Juwan Howard.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it without the transfer portal. But now with the transfer portal, forget it. You could transform a team in a single season, but it's not about just transforming a team. You mentioned the word earlier. It's culture.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Got to get that culture reestablished. That takes 2, 3, 4 seasons because you have to have freshmen that come in. Now, who are those freshmen learning from? Usually they're learning from the seniors.
Mm-hmm.
They're not learning this culture from these seniors. So
Right.
Dane Fife is going to have to be the senior on this team for these guys. Because of all the guys I've talked to through all the years, that's what it was. Everyone. It doesn't matter if it's Charlie Miller, Todd Leary, Calbert Cheney. They all had guys that were seniors that passed that down to them, and then they did the same. And it was just seamless.
Mm-hmm.
That's changed somewhere in the Tom Crean era, I think. Late in the Tom Crean era, maybe. I definitely the last 4 years, none of that. But we got to take a break, so we're not late. But we got Chris Denari is going to join us next. But after that, I want to talk about some perspective rotations. We talked about the starters. I think there's going to be guys seeing less minutes, man. Trey Jackson Davis, his numbers are going to go down. Not his playing time, but his numbers are going to go down. If they don't, he's not going to be on a winning team. I saw a stat a while back that showed 5 times a player has been responsible for like the top percentage of his team's scoring. And the one thing that those things all had in common that I looked at, I'm like, I will guarantee you, if you look on those, they're all going to be not very good teams. You can't have one guy responsible for 20+% of your scoring output. That's too much, unless he's just that damn good. But we'll talk about all that and more when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, you make it so easy, we could just talk for days.
We could.
I was trying to figure out what to title your all's segment because I was sending it to Jonathan to make his little thumbnails or whatever. I was deciding, is it either going to be Archie Miller versus Mike Woodson recruiting styles or Cole versus Dustin Schutte beat 'em up?
No. Well, I don't know what we talked about.
You talked a lot about recruiting. Like at first, you talked a lot about how Woodson's changing the recruiting stuff, or like the
that's the deal. Changing it, the changing of the guard in IU recruiting and whatever culture or whatever.
Here's the thing, though, is I think we were both arguing the same point, just from different sides.
Yes.
We both agree on everything we talked about. We were just arguing different sides of it.
Pretty much.
But that's what makes it.
There was something else I had to say. Oh, never mind. Now that's next break. I got to remind you about taking the radio side out at 10:30. We have one more break in between. So
and what we're going to do is that's going to be in the middle of a break. Okay,
in the middle of a segment. Yes.
I'm just going to do it like right in the middle of the segment.
Yes, I get that, and I'll send for those you a text just to remind you.
For those of you listening on the ref down in Evansville, you can take off now. Who is the play-by-play for the Cardinals? We need to find that out.
And you probably need to be pretty timely because I know whenever we have stuff like this at iHeart for Bats games or like other games, they like it to be on the top.
Tell me what I need to do.
I'm just saying.
I'm kidding.
Here's Chris.
Hey, Chris. Hey, before I forget, what are you doing Friday? I have availability.
I'm driving.
Donald Ross course.
My wife and I are driving to Myrtle Beach this afternoon. Our son is proposing to his girlfriend on Saturday morning.
Does she know that?
She does not. It's a surprise, and her parents.
That's good.
And we're both going to be there.
Well, congrats.
Yeah,
congratulations.
I mean, she knows a ring is coming at some point. She just doesn't know when.
Well, I should say maybe I should hold on the congrats and make sure she says yes first, right?
Correct.
I'm pretty sure with all this going on, it's a pretty confident deal there. But good luck on that 12-hour drive or however long it is.
Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Thursday. Dustin Schutte joining me as always, and Chris Denari from the Pacers Now. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. I've been watching a lot of sports, following the Reds, who are playing really well. Swept
Got
the
back.
Brewers.
They're back, man. I know. I can't believe they swept the Brewers and the Cardinals this year.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
On the road, they've won 8 straight road games. I think they've won 14 of 17 or something like that. So, hey, we'll take it. Reds. I've been a lifelong Reds fan. It was great to see Tucker Barnhart get the game-winning RBI yesterday. So that NBA playoffs have been really good.
Crazy. Those games have been nuts.
I mean, a huge comeback. That's a 26-point and an 18-point comeback in the last 2 wins for Atlanta.
It's nuts. And of course, no irony lost there with the coaching situation.
Yeah.
Which is, I at this point, I don't know that it matters, but man, what would happen if Atlanta made it to the finals? That would kind of really put would just really leave a lot of people shaking their head.
Yeah, no, there's no question, but I think a lot of people, I mean, Pacers people included, would be happy for Nate McMillan. I mean, I think we've seen what happened yesterday in the coaching ranks. Scott Brooks not coming back as the Washington head coach. Stan Van Gundy after a year not coming back to New Orleans. Again, I thought Scott Brooks did a really good job with Washington. His tie to Russell Westbrook, I think a lot of us thought he would be back, but they could not come to an agreement. I think what it shows, Dustin and Jim, is there are a lot of good coaches out there. Sometimes, for whatever reason, and I don't want to say it didn't work for Nate McMillan with the Pacers because he had the Pacers in the playoffs every year, just couldn't win a playoff series. Doesn't mean he's not a good coach. He and the Pacers, I mean, probably more the Pacers, but he even said a year ago, look, if I can't win a first-round series, then maybe a change needs to be made. So a change is made. He goes as an assistant to Atlanta. They start out the year very poorly under Lloyd Pierce. They make a change, fire Lloyd Pierce, bump up Nate McMillan, and boom, everything turns around. So every opportunity is different, but I think I know I'm really happy for Nate because he's a really good guy, and I think he's a good coach. And you want to see good people have success, even though it didn't maybe work out how you had hoped with the Pacers. You wish nothing but the best, and they're now a game away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
And one of the storylines, or a couple of the storylines I have really thought are exciting about this has been not only Nate McMillan being 1 win away. He was a guy with the Pacers, as we talked about, couldn't quite get over the hurdle. Then the Clippers right now are 1 win away, and Paul George, outside of his time at Indiana, has kind of had that, burden of not being able to win the big one or win a big series. So you have the potential to see Paul George, a former Pacers star, get into the Western Conference Finals and maybe get to compete for an NBA championship. And then you got Nate McMillan, who's 1 win away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's one of these things that keeps me up at night. I'm losing my hair because, knowing those were both former Pacers coaches and players, but it's really been an interesting year and a great finals for even to support some of these other former Pacers.
Yeah. And, I saw what Paul said after the game. He sort of channeled what he had to do with Indy, with the Pacers, because he was the best player on the Pacers team. If you think back to those 2 Eastern Conference Finals teams, he was a lot younger. He had George Hill and Stevenson and Hibbert and West around him, but clearly he was the player on that team. And he has not been the player on the Clippers because you've had Kawhi Leonard, who's already won 2 NBA titles. But with Leonard out, he had to step up, and I give Paul a lot of credit because last year he sort of stumbled and fumbled a little bit in the bubble, but he was really good last night. I mean, he was, 2 nights ago we saw, I thought, one of the best playoff performances that you'll see in Kevin Durant when he went for 49 points and played all 48 minutes. But what the Clippers needed last night on the road from Paul George, you were wondering, would you get it? Would Paul be able to deliver? And clearly he did.
Go ahead.
And
This is Dustin's segment. Turn this over to Dustin. He just loves the Pacers.
My next question to you, Chris, was going to be a true false question, and I want 100% honesty. Chris Denari at Wabash could beat Giannis Antetokounmpo in a timed free throw contest.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could have done that in high school. At one point, I had the all-time Hamilton County free throw record for percentage. It wasn't going to take me 10 seconds to shoot a free throw. You know what's interesting about that? I think back to the last Pacers-Bucks game in the regular season. Our game operations director, they put the 10-second countdown on Giannis. And we know that they've also done that in Brooklyn, and now the NBA has told them they can't do that anymore. And that's fine, but my point is, I don't care who you are, if you're Michael Jordan or Giannis or whoever, you have 10 seconds to shoot a free throw. And if it takes you more than 10 seconds, then it's got to be called. And they have called it this year, but it is interesting to see him. I would think he might shoot free throws better if he would shoot them quicker, right? I mean, it's almost like taking too much time over a golf shot, right? Or a putt.
Too much thinking.
Yeah, just shoot it. Just yeah.
Well, and I think when the Pacers did that, when they put it, I feel like he got up to like 13 and 14 seconds at one point. Like, it was ridiculous. And I'm thinking, I can't remember, outside of maybe like Shaquille O'Neal, who was notoriously a poor free throw shooter, but even throughout the course of his career, he got better. I'm trying to think of a superstar player like him who's been as bad at the free throw line in those, like some of those clutch situations like we saw the other night against Brooklyn. I mean, is there another guy? I don't know his percentage off the top of my head, but I can't think of anybody else.
Yeah, I can't either. I mean, and that's the thing. I think, I was texting back and forth with somebody yesterday about Ben Simmons, how good a player he is, and he is. But when you're a liability at the free throw line, especially in close situations, and what Nate McMillan in Atlanta has done, you can do this up to 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You can just go up and foul somebody. And after the 2-minute mark, then it becomes an intentional foul, and it becomes free throws and the ball. But yeah, you've got to be a better free throw shooter, and especially Giannis. That's why the ball's in the hands of Middleton a lot and other players on the team, because Giannis is just not a reliable free throw shooter. And when you get into clutch situations, you've got to be able to make free throws. And so if you're going down, let's say you have 3 possessions left in the game and you get fouled 3 times and you make 3 free throws. I mean, there are teams making threes in those situations. So you could lose 6 points in 3 possessions. And we know in close games that can turn it around.
Well, you'll get a chance to find out because Brooklyn travels to Milwaukee tonight for an 8:30 contest, Game 6, no less.
Yeah.
Man, I don't see Milwaukee getting beat at home, but it could certainly happen. That could be a 7-game series. The Clippers Jazz is looking like it's going to go 7 the way they've played. It's been really fun. And then, of course, the Hawks and the 76ers. It's been fun. These series have just been fun to watch. The games have gotten fun, but that's always been the mark of the NBA. Script the regular season and wait till they get to the playoffs and watch. But man, these games have really intensified.
Oh, there's no question. It was, I think, surprising that the Phoenix-Denver series only went 4 games. I mean, Phoenix playing very well. And now you've got Chris Paul in COVID protocol, to see what will happen. He's got to hope. This reminds me a little bit of what happened to John Rahm at the Memorial, where he tested positive for COVID-19. I believe Rahm had one test, or he had vaccination, but was within the 14 days. It sounds like Chris Paul was vaccinated, but I don't know where he was in the 14-day period, because I think we know that you can still get COVID-19 with vaccination. It just, you're not going to have, you're going to be asymptomatic. You're just not going to have it as bad as what we've seen through the last year. So I would think if everything would work out for Chris Paul and that series between the Clippers and the Jazz would go 7, that would go to the weekend. They would not start the first game of the Western Conference Finals until early next week. There would be a chance that he could be back based on having 2 negative tests. So yeah, yesterday was one of the craziest days in the NBA off the court, because you had the Kawhi Leonard news that he's out with an ACL potential injury. Donnie Nelson was let go after 20 plus years as the head man of the Dallas Mavericks. You had the Chris Paul situation. You had 2 coaches fired. It was an amazing day in the NBA yesterday, let alone you were coming off a day where Kevin Durant had scored 49 points in 48 minutes.
And we have yet to talk about the coaching search for the Pacers, which I know you're not involved in that, but it is continuing to ongoing. Everyone's asking, and I'm like, and these new coaching hires or openings, they don't exactly help the situation, but I think the Pacers are probably far enough along into where they're going that they already know which direction they're going, and that probably won't have any effect on that. But it will be interesting to see where they end up. But I know that they know this. You can't screw this one up. You can't miss. You got to get this bunt down. You cannot. It's like hitting a bunt. You have got to get this bunt down because the runner's coming. It's a squeeze bunt. You can't miss this.
Yeah, this is one where they in Kevin Pritchard's comments last week, he said, look, we took a chance. We went outside the box with an assistant coach that we thought was a really good X and O's guy. And I think he was, from an offensive end in particular. I think the defense, we all know, struggled this year. But I would think, I don't want to call it a safer option, but I think they go with somebody that has a lot more experience, that can bring an assistant coaching staff that he is very comfortable with. I would say he or she, but if you're going to go the female route, and I think Becky Hammon is going to be a head coach. She will be a head coach. Yeah, I do. I think Kara Lawson has a chance to be a head coach in the NBA. I just don't know if it maps out with where the Pacers want to be right now, because they probably need somebody with head coaching experience. But we'll wait and find out. I do think, though, Jim, I think those 2 coaches on the female, Kara Lawson and Becky Hammon, especially Becky, I think she will be a head coach in the NBA easily within the next 5 years. It could be a lot quicker. I've always thought that she may be the coach in waiting in San Antonio when Greg Popovich steps down, but we'll just have to wait and see.
And Chris, one thing I wanted to point out about this, or not point out, but just kind of talk about, is you look at Twitter and there's so many experts out there talking about the Pacers needing to make hurry up and make this hire for the head coach. And my 2 thoughts to that are, you want to make sure you get this thing right. And the second thing is again, I think people would have thought Stan Van Gundy was going to return to New Orleans. You thought Scott Brooks would return to Washington. So I'm fine with them waiting out, because you never know what's going to happen in the NBA, who's going to become available. I think it's best that they weigh all of their options unless they are 100% sold on one guy. So I have no problem with this not being a, snap quick hire.
Yeah, I mean, it does complicate the process that you have 2 more openings. So now there are 6 openings. You've got the opening in Portland. You've got Brad Stevens hiring a coach in Boston. You've got Orlando, which is a little bit different, I think, than any of the others, because that is a total rebuild. They have gutted that franchise as far as their star players. If you look in Portland, they've got Lillard and McCollum. So it will be interesting. So does it give the advantage to some of these coaches that are thought to be one of the top candidates, that gives them some negotiating opportunities to see what might be out there? That will be the interesting thing to see. But I agree with you. I don't think you have to totally rush, but you've got to do your homework, and you've got to get somebody that you think will fit the culture of the Pacers and who can also help establish a culture with the Pacers. I think that's one of the things that probably failed with the head coaching hired with Nate Bjorkgren is they were not able to continue the culture that they had, and he was not able to establish a culture that he wanted as the head coach. So that's all important. X and O's are important, but the relationship with your organization and the relationship with the players, and it's not just the players, it's the entire organization from the president of basketball operations down to the head athletic trainer. Everybody's got to be in sync, and that's something the Pacers, I'm sure, are concentrating on right now.
And this is a quick question too, I guess, in big picture, I guess. Do you think the culture changed and has not been the way it was under Larry Bird? I mean, that's kind of a big picture question, but we haven't seen the kind of team chemistry we were accustomed to seeing. I mean, we always saw the Pacers play well together as a team, I thought, under Larry Bird for the most part. And I don't know that we've seen that the past couple seasons. But do you think that the team culture has changed without Larry Bird?
No, I think Kevin Pritchard has been able to extend that culture. I think the thing that they got away from this year, and I think when I talk about culture, might be on the defensive end. They weren't as good or as connected defensively as they need to be. The Pacers have always been sort of known as a hard-nosed team, and a lot of that probably came from Dan Burke, who's on the sideline now with Philadelphia. I thought offensively this was as good as they've been, but defensively they really took a step back. And if you think about it, they had the same personnel this year as they had a year ago. And last year they were top 7, 8 defensively. This year, as bad as it looked late, and the numbers really changed, they were, I think, 15th or 16th defensively. But that step back, I think, is the culture that Kevin Pritchard was talking about. The attention to detail on the defensive end wasn't as good as it's been in the past. And that's been sort of what the Pacers have hung their hat on. I think you want to be better offensively. I think you've got to be able to score. I think that, has been proven. But if you look at these NBA playoffs, a lot of times these scores are a lot lower than they are in the regular season because possessions change. The game is played a little bit differently in the postseason than it is in the regular season because you have a day off between games. You've got the appropriate amount of rest. When you're playing 4 games in 5 nights or 5 and 7, that makes it really difficult, I think, to have that defensive mindset. But I think if you can have that defensive mindset in the regular season, it carries over into the postseason when you need it.
One thing I'm not going to ask you about potential candidates, obviously, but the one name that has just been jumping out way before it even happened, Terry Stotts. There's just so many things with him, going to school, high school in Bloomington, being a former Indiana All-Star. Also, the fact that they parted ways in Portland just on their own. It's like he was just setting the stage almost. But that's a guy that is readily available. You don't have to worry about contract issues. It's just boom. And he just seems like such a natural fit. And usually those things happen kind of quick. And the fact that it hasn't happened yet is a little surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Terry Stotts is one of the top candidates for the job. I mean, you just have to wait and see. I mean, there's so many things that go into, hiring a coach. It's, previous relationships, all those kinds of things. But I would have to think that he is somebody that is at the top of the list. Is he the one? Oh, I'm not going to say that. There's still, plenty of opportunity to, make other decisions. But I would definitely say, Jim, that, for me, just knowing what Terry Stotts is about and how he carries himself and what he did in Portland, I definitely think he's got to be one of the top guys under consideration. He had a team in Portland in the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago. Maybe this year, like the Pacers, though they made the playoffs, they were a little disappointing. Doesn't mean he's a bad coach or didn't do his job. It just means maybe it was time for another voice to be heard in the Portland locker room and for his voice to move on. So I think it will be it'll be a fascinating next week, 2 weeks into the month. I would have to believe that as you get closer to the NBA draft, which is in mid-July, and then free agency, all these teams are going to want to have their coaches. So I would think we will see things start to move here in the next week or so.
Absolutely. Got to let you run. I know you got a trip to plan for, so safe travels to you as you hit the road.
All right.
Appreciate you so much, buddy. Thank you, Chris.
All right.
Great Chris Denari joining us here from the Pacers. Plenty to talk about. Man, we talked about that. That was a ton. We got more to get to as well. We'll be right back with it.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a relaxed...
That was just a great segment, man. I couldn't cut that short.
Chris always has the good stuff.
Oh, you're fine. I just want the only thing I'm thinking about right now is
I
the
know.
fact that we have to.
Sorry, but we'll come
Get
back
out,
27. It gives us 7 minutes.
Go.
That's all we got to do is say it and then keep going.
You have 3 minutes, so you have to end the radio part. That's what I'm saying.
It's 24, so oh, that's right.
It'll be 20. Yeah,
it'll be 27. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals. Too bad Harry Carey's still not doing. Oh, I forgot.
Guy was.
That's right. Who was this?
Ooh.
Where's the Cardinals?
Mike Shannon. Did you know that Harry Carey was with the Cardinals back in the day? I think it's where he started.
And he did the White Sox too, didn't he?
Yes.
Yep.
He's the ultimate
he and
betrayer. The ultimate betrayer.
Well, I'm not gonna mind.
If I told you my Harry Carey story, greatest story I ever have in sports. I was peon. I was working for CBS. I was working in production. We were covering a game at Cincinnati, the Cubs at Cincinnati. There's a girl that I worked with at the Derby before. She was from Chicago, and she says, "Hey, after the game, we'll go up to the booth. We can get Harry's autograph." So I didn't give a crap. I'm not a Cubs fan, but I had a friend that was, and I'm like, "Oh well, hell, I'm gonna get one for myself too." So I had grabbed 2 balls off the field from before the game, and then after the game, we went up. There was 4 of us. I was first in line. "Hey, Mr. Carey, how you doing? Could I sign my ball?" And he's drunk. "Hey, Mr. Carey, I have one of my friends, a big Cubs fan. Would you mind?" "No, I signed your ball. I got out of here." So I'm like, "Oh, screw it." I just went to the back of the line. There was only 4 of us. I figured he was so drunk he wouldn't know the difference. The other 3 people go through, and I come back, and I just lift my head up. "Hey, Mr. Carey, would you mind saying?" "Hey, I signed your ball, you son of a bitch. Now get out of here." That's it. That's a true story, man. True story. Harry Carey. "I signed your ball, you son of a bitch. Now get the hell out of here."
Oh man!
All right, I got.
It was awesome.
Back in. It's awesome, baby. I wish I would have kept that up there for now, but I have the outro music in.
How about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month? Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
How's everybody doing on this Thursday? Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition with me as always. I'm not going to talk about it until I do like 5-6 days of this testing that I'm doing at home. But I started doing this Aurora Sleep, specialty sleep device yesterday. That's invented by Steve Green and Brian Evans, 2 former IU basketball players. But I'm kind of shocked by the result. The very first night, I was like, all right, we'll do it again. And then the second night, because there's just a little bit of adjustment, but it's in regards to snoring, sleep apnea. Man, the masks are about to be a thing of the past in my mind. I'm going to wait, like I said, for 5 days, but I'm just 2 days in, and I'm like, wow, it's unbelievable. Because I know a lot of people who have it, and they all wear those alien looking mask with the hose coming off. Looks like an elephant's trunk. And brother, these are basically like whitening trays, teeth whitening trays. If you're familiar with those,
Yep.
And that's all this is. But they connect in a way, and you can adjust them. But I'm like, wow. But like I said, I'm gonna give it the 5 days before I confirm everything. But there's a recording because you record at night. What's going on? I'm like, there was just barely 2 blips last night, and I'm like, all right. So I'm gonna give the full report. But yeah, I got to tell you, that's going to change. That would be revolutionary.
It would change.
I mean, I haven't been diagnosed with sleep apnea, but I know that I have it because I've been told by too many people that I was on vacation with a buddy of mine. He's a doctor, and he's like, dude, I thought you died 10 times last night because I'm doing that. But yeah, so there's no doubt that I have that, but there's the snoring that goes along with that issues, the breathing and whatnot. But hey, if you're listening to us down in Evansville, you got the Cardinals coming up today. So our broadcast can be cut a little short down on ESPN in Evansville. Mike Shannon coming along. Who's the Cards playing today, by the way? Too bad they don't still have Harry Carey. That's where he first worked. Who are the Cardinals playing today? I don't even know. I'm not a Cardinals fan. I was, like I said, it was just 5 years from not being a Cardinals fan. Had A.R.A. Smith brought the Louisville Redbirds in 5 years sooner, I probably would have been. But looking at today's schedule, trying to find it, I don't see it. There's too many of them. Cardinals, where are you? Cardinals at the Braves. It says it's 7:20 p.m. tonight, so that's a little odd. But all right. But we'll see you guys tomorrow in Evansville. Thanks a lot for joining us and for Dustin Schutte, for Chris Denari. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio tomorrow in Evansville. And we're back. It's that simple. Sorry, we had to kill the radio down there. They're picking up the Cardinals game today. So they got that going for them, which is nice. And how about the Reds? Chris and Ari talking about that. I haven't talked a lot about them, but they're 2 games out of first. Behind the Cubs are in first now. How about this? The Cubs are in first. Do I need to say that? Wow, the Cubs are in first. That's still hard to say. I still wish we had Harry Carey. He was just such a character listening. The Cubs are in first place. Stop the season.
Yeah,
but,
I think I was in. It might make you feel old. I think I was in elementary school when Harry Carey was calling Cubs games.
Well, he was calling Cubs games since Adam and Eve picked the apple, man. So that could have been any time.
Who was it? The comedian Dan St. Paul or whoever it is who does the impression of Harry Carey?
No, the greatest.
The baseball game.
I'm trying to think of. That's not a good one. I'm trying to think of who does the best one. I think it was a guy named Mark Patrick who used to be on Indianapolis Sports. Will Ferrell didn't do too bad a one, but he had a lot of makeup going along with it.
He did.
Hey, Harry Carey here. Check out the kid in the sombrero.
Yeah, he was
truly a freaking character, man. Just one of the great characters of all time. The Reds play the Reds are on the West Coast tonight, man. They play the Padres. So I need
30.
And the Cubs are playing in New York at the Mets. That's Brockway's team. So I need Brockway's team to knock off the Cubs. And then the Cardinals are playing at the Braves. The Braves need to win a game. They're behind the Mets. So, yeah. We're going to start watching baseball now? Wow. Crazy. It's nuts. But I just want to watch everything. After last year, I want to take in everything. I want to go to a baseball game. Going up to Cincinnati is fun, or go to St. Louis. That's the great thing about being here. You can go to a Cardinals game. You can go to a Reds game.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to a Cubs and White Sox game. All within about, well, the Cincinnati is the closest. St. Louis is the second closest. The White Sox and then the Cubs. But I mean, all within 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean,
that's pretty good baseball.
And even if you just want a day out, you can go and see the Indians or the Louisville Bats. I mean, going to downtown Indy's
the
always.
Bats suck right now.
Well, I don't follow them, so I'll take.
They're a Reds farm team. They're not doing well, I heard. So, but yeah, there's that. So, what was it? The Reds are in front of the Cardinals, by the way, by a game. FYI.
A tight race.
Potential rotations. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Guys that might start. Now, granted, this is just for fun, because there's no way in hell that I don't know what they have right now or who's doing what. They're just starting practice together as units. So this is just speculation for entertainment purposes only. But I see one guy starting that has started the last couple of seasons. And another thing, you're not going to see the same damn starting lineup week after week or from start of the game to halftime. Because this coaching staff understands sometimes you need to make adjustments. Sometimes it's the other team having to adjust to you, but sometimes you have to make adjustments because of what they're doing. This staff understands that. Sometimes that requires different personnel. Sometimes personnel is not playing properly, and you need to put this guy in instead. Maybe there's foul trouble. Who knows? There will be different lineups. Unlike the last 4 seasons where come hell or high water, the same person was in the same lineup beginning of the game and at halftime. That is gone.
Despite saying we might have to change up the lineup.
Despite me asking that direct question.
Well, yeah, I know. And then getting those answers repeated.
Yeah. But that's one thing. So and then the talent that has come in.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that are here, and this includes Trace Jackson Davis. He's not been against this talent. He has not been practicing against this kind of talent. He's probably going to have to go against Race Thompson. Race Thompson's a workhorse. He's going to have to go against Durr, who's a big guy. Miller Kopp, couple inches shorter, but he's going to work.
Yep.
That's the thing that none of these guys have seen in 4 seasons are guys trying to beat them out of their spot because they never had to worry about their spot. Who's gonna beat them out?
Right.
Hell, he was only playing 3 other guys. Nobody. No one is going to beat him out. That's gone. That's different.
Well,
no one has even Trace Jackson Davis does not have a guaranteed starting spot, although he probably does. But
I was going to say, I wouldn't say that. I think he's probably a guaranteed starter. But what I would say is when you're going up against those names that you just mentioned compared to what you've had to go up against in the past, you're not going to get everything at the rim. You're going to have to develop a jump shot. And I think that that's the best way, you be able to extend the defense a little bit. He's going to have to be a better passer. So I think there's going to be aspects of his game. We've talked about this a couple weeks, I think, in a row here, where you've talked about his numbers are going to drop, but his overall talent and his NBA draft stock is going to rise because he's going to develop new aspects to his game that makes him a better all-around player, even though we're going to see, he's not going to be scoring 30% of Indiana's points or whatever it was. So that he's going to develop into a really, really good player. I think he's going to develop into the player we thought he was going to be when he committed to Indiana.
Tim put his potential starting lineup up there of Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, Tamar Bates, Xavier Johnson, and Rob Finney. I don't see Race Thompson starting. Xavier Johnson, I do, but because of his numbers, but I don't know what he does here. He's got to prove that here. Based on his numbers at Pitt, yeah, I see that. Rob Finney, unless he has a chance. Dane Fife is set on really helping him, but that dude has got to produce some offense. I mean, he's not an offensive, has not been, and he may be able to get that done with this staff, but there's a lot of guys that are not mentioned here that, are a good shot at starting. The first one that comes to my mind is Miller Kopp. But I see you taking, well, you wouldn't take two of the bigs out, but there's three guards right there. But one of them, Rob Fennessy, is not offensively minded. So I think that three of those are potential. I just don't see that you're going to keep Miller Kopp off the floor. He's a veteran. This dude has started for 3 Big Ten seasons. He's played in the Big Ten. He knows what it's like. He's not a freshman. He's a veteran.
Yeah, but imagine him doing that off the bench. I mean,
that's the thing this team has.
Well, and that's the thing. You're gonna replace experience with experience. I mean, that's great. You're gonna have a great second unit. And
with production.
Yeah, and what I'm curious to see is how a guy like Christian Lander kind of fits into this. Parker Stewart, where do they fit in? Is this going to be? I mean, we look at it, and obviously Mike Woodson, but you're going to have 5 backup guys that are going to be really good, and we expect them to be developed. You're going to have a backup to every starter, and we haven't really seen that where. Yeah, guys have had replacements, but you're not getting that kind of production that you need. You might have a guy step up once in a while, but you need that consistently. You need that second unit. If you're going to compete in the Big Ten, you need that second unit to be really good. I mean, you look at Michigan, Illinois, all the teams that were really good last season. I think regardless of who you think is going to be on the starting lineup, whoever you put in that, look at who you got left on the bench. I mean, that's a really good problem to have.
Look at last year's bench. Look at this year's bench.
Correct.
A, last year's bench was very short.
Mm-hmm.
B, who came in that had any offensive output? Hunter is the most, and that was very little. The guy the guy with the most offensive output off your bench last year was basically told that you're not going to be playing here. So that tells you how bad it was.
Yep.
If that doesn't tell you how bad it was, now, and then you had Anthony Leo and Trey Galloway and Christian come in, but they were just coming in and filling minutes. I mean, Trey Galloway did nothing but run around and run under the basket and throw the ball out. Anthony tried to get some shots off, but there was no offense for him to run to get a shot off. So he was handicapped there, but he's gonna have to work on that. If he wants to play, he's gonna have to be a shooter. And then, like you mentioned, Christian Lander, Tutelage, if he can get the control, and he's got to get his shooting down. He's either got to get his shooting down or focus more on being a playmaker. His shooting was not great last year, but a lot of learning. So that's easily fixed.
Well, and we talked about during the season, I think what's going to help some of these younger kids, some of these incoming freshmen or the guys who were freshmen last season, or guys who even came off the bench, I think you're going to see them play a little bit looser because you're not going to have Archie Miller with that quick hook. You could make a mistake and you're going to play 2 minutes in the game. Or a couple things. I think Mike Woodson, he's coached in the NBA long enough to know, and I think he wants to help these guys get to the next level. They're going to have to play through their mistakes. Even if that means losing a game here or there, they're going to have to play through their mistakes because if that happens early in the season, you're going to be probably more times than not, you're going to be better off later in the year if they're able to work through those mistakes in live game moments. We're not talking about practice. Allen Iverson, we're not talking about practice. Practice. But I think if you allow those kids, those guys, if you think they can be big time contributors to come in, play 15 minutes, regardless of how, obviously in situations, but they're going to have to work through some of these mistakes. And that's a problem we saw for 4 years. They were not allowed to play through their mistakes. They weren't developed. We've talked about that endlessly, but I think you're going to see that kind of mentality really help. And that's going to help with their confidence. That's going to make a huge difference.
And not only that, Tony Stuckey on Andy Moore Honda Hotline, I don't think starting is going to be as important to this staff. There could be 15 starting lineups throughout the season. I guarantee you. That's what I just said earlier.
Yep.
Because, it means something if you're starting. I still believe that because, that's an honor. But I played sports and athletics. Starting is an honor. It means something. They want you on there. But with this, it's going to be a rotation. You may play 10 minutes, 8 minutes. Boom, somebody else comes in, plays another 8 minutes. You come back in. And it's going to be a deal where there's no drop off, no let off.
Right.
That's where you have to be as a team. And of course, you can't be that way 10 deep, or, well, if you are, you're pretty damn good. But that's what makes teams great, when you have little to no drop off. And that's what you have to have. But and to have that, everything has to go into that: recruiting, the development, no egos, team first mentality, having the right players, all of that, coaching staff. Boom. I think all of that is in place. I don't know about the egos of the players because I haven't been around them. But with everything else being equal, we got more to talk about. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking
Hey, today's the 27th anniversary of the O.J. Simpson thing. Where you got
Are you
Bronco.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I was going to share that earlier, but y'all had other stuff to talk about. So.
Were you alive for that, John?
No.
Oh, my
God. But what year was it? 27 years? No, I'm 23, so no.
I remember watching it on TV, man.
I do too.
How old were you, Dustin?
33.
Okay, so you're 10 years older than me. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Man, there was so much stuff I wanted to talk about today that was on.
I didn't realize too on the tweet that I saw, it's a list of all the things that happened on this day. There was a lot of things going on. Let's see if I can find it real quick. 27 years ago is today, the craziest day in sports history. 1, World Cup kicks off in the U.S. 2, New York Rangers championship parade. 3, Arnold Palmer plays his final U.S. Open round. And then the night ended with O.J. Simpson's car chase interrupting Game 5 of the NBA Finals.
Yep. That they did the 30 for 30 on that. The ESPN. It's just
That's nuts.
17th?
Do what? June 17th.
June, yeah. So the title of the ESPN 30 for 30, if you have ESPN Plus, is June 17th, 1994. And it highlights.
Okay.
There's no commentary. And I think it's probably the best production ESPN has ever done.
Wow. How long is it how long is that 30 for 30 specifically?
I think it's an hour and 30. It's one of the long, it's either an hour 30 or 2 hours. Like, it's one of the longer ones.
Man, it's long for not having any commentary. It's pretty cool.
But it tells the whole story. It's incredible. I don't know how much film they had to go through, but I'm guessing that took like 2-3 years to pour through all of that.
I can't believe how much happened on that day. That's wild.
I know.
I don't think anything like that's happened since. I can think of.
Probably not to that degree. The closest thing I would think would be 9/11, and then everything like that week, the sports world kind of shut. COVID-19, obviously.
Of course, COVID, yeah.
I remember they canceled, I think, college and NFL games that week, I think. I know they canceled college football games.
All right, I'm going to bring us back in.
Hanging with friends or on the golf course, Sam's Restaurants has multiple locations and something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat, Lily King going back to the Olympics. Lily King is the queen of the pool, as always. The 100-meter breaststroke. Did she? I think I saw Jennifer mention that she's swimming today in the 200. Is that right? In the comments earlier. I'll have to go up and find that. I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere. There we go. Lily King swimming the 200 breaststroke today in the semis. Finals are Friday night. So there you go. She could get the double daily. Hopefully she does. Thank you, Jennifer. Jason Kidd, rumored for Pacers coach. Well, he's definitely a name, but no. I think it's going to be Terry Stotts.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's another risk they don't need to take.
Yeah. Rolling on there. Let's see what else is going on. That's where that came from. Yeah, that's dumb. Yesterday, we talked about this earlier. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention in that little space that I wish he's not interested, but I kind of wish Juwan Howard would have been more open to the NBA because I think he would have been a good hire for the Pacers. But we can move on from that conversation.
You mean get him out of Michigan?
Well, that's number one. There you go. That would be number one for IU fans, getting him out of Michigan. But I would have liked Juwan Howard. 10 years on that Miami Heat staff. He's got a lot of connections to a lot of players. A lot of guys would want to play for him. I think he would be a great hire for the Pacers. But obviously he's told teams he has no interest in even discussing leaving Michigan right now. So
I'm looking at the picture, and actually we had this discussion Monday with Charlie Miller. It was a great discussion about they do all the photo ops with the players come in now on the recruiting visits. They put the uniform on and doing all that and end up signing with a rival school or something like that. It's something I thought of. You never see Purdue doing that.
Doing what?
I don't recall seeing recruiting visits like this. I don't think they have.
That's a good point. I don't think they have the. They're an Aggie school, man. They're an engineering school. They don't have the. Maybe they don't know how to take a picture. I'm just kidding. They just don't do that, which I'm fine with that. They just sign guys. Well, I was going to say, I don't know on the basketball side. I don't follow the recruiting as much for the Big Ten at all on the basketball side, but I know the football side pretty much. I think every program does that on the football side. Basketball might be. I
don't know that Purdue does. I don't.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, with the uniform and all that, but on the visit, not signing. Okay, I haven't seen it. Anyway, I'm looking at this picture of Philip Kowski and Taylor. He's the smaller one. The jersey he's wearing looks like a retro jersey. It's got Adidas on it. And if that's the case, got a little plan? Is there a little plan in store this season?
There you go. Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, that jersey just looks slightly different. The Indiana is always in red on the white jerseys, right? This is a white Indiana with borders around it. If you pull it up on Twitter, it's I wonder if we got something there.
How do you feel? Do you care? Because let me.
Don't open this can of worms.
Okay, but I'm going to. This is what's going to happen because I think it's ridiculous. There was a story maybe a year or two ago. Penn State slightly altered its jersey. It put like the Nittany Lion logo on the V of the jersey. And I'm telling you, all hell broke loose among Penn State fans. It's probably the older generation.
But do you know who it was? It was not the players. It was not the participants. It never is. It's people who are living on this thing that is built into their head, like the names on the back of the jerseys. I really don't give a crap.
Okay, thank you.
I really don't give a crap. I've said it before. Do you know why? Because it doesn't make a stinking bit of difference. And the people that care, have not played competitive sports, because I did. And I had my name on the back of the jerseys. And guess how many times I looked at it?
0.
Only when I put the damn thing all over my head is the only time I ever saw it.
Yep.
And during the entire games that I was playing, do you know how many times I thought, is my name on my jersey? Is it there?
Yep.
Never. Not once. It's for identification purposes mainly.
Yep.
That's what it's for. So I don't give a crap. It does not detract. But people got this because they heard somebody say it's about the name on the front, not the name on the back. Now, if I see that one more time, I'm going to throw up.
Well, I don't understand why people think that if you have
because they've not played competitive sports, and therefore they don't have a clue. They're just going off of this stuff that's been planted in their head. That's my opinion, but
no, you're 100% right, because you don't think about you could have an advertisement on the front of your jersey. I can promise you're not thinking about it during the game.
But people get, it's a tradition. No, it's a tradition just because it hasn't been done differently.
Yep.
Do they have names on football jerseys at Indiana? They tried taking them off, and what happened? They had to put them back on because it didn't work.
Yep.
Now, basketball, I don't care. They're not going to do it. And they don't need to do it in basketball because there's few enough people and you can see the faces.
And you don't have multiple numbers.
Yeah. And so that is a big help there. So, but what you do have is you've got Kyle Fieldkowski wearing 22. Now, no one's going to confuse him for Damon Bailey, but Damon Bailey wore 22. In photos, would it be easier to see a guy going up from behind with Bailey on it and there's Bailey, or number 3? Generally, I know who they are instantly, but there's that. And here's one final thing I'd throw out at you. Do you know the last team to win a national basketball championship that does not have names on their jerseys?
Was it Indiana?
It was in 1987. That is the last time a national championship has been won by a team that does not have names on the back of their jerseys.
That is an incredible stat. Incredible stat. Because not only that, but the fact that I'm surprised that many teams had names on the jerseys in the 80s and 90s. I don't know, but I believe it. That's just like that's a crazy stat to me.
Here's how much it doesn't matter though. If you ask these same fans, okay, name me 5 teams real fast that does not have names on the back of their jerseys because it's so important.
Yeah, nobody's going to,
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's just something to complain about. That makes that, like the Penn State thing. That is the most ridiculous thing because that's a logo. It changes nothing. I guarantee you, had they done it and not said it,
nobody would have noticed.
Nope.
It was the same thing with we also did a story on adding the 150 patch, college football 150 years. Every team in college football wore it, and certain fan bases threw a fit because it had to be on there. And I just don't get it. I mean, some people are just,
some people are just ridiculous. They just like to, again, in their mind, they are everything, no room for change.
Right. Everything that happened in the 1970s is the way it should
I'm sorry, but life changes. Life goes on. And when it goes on, there are just changes to things. Right. Bob Knight is not walking through that Simon Scott Assembly Hall door to coach again. So got to get over it. This is not Bob Knight's deal anymore. He's not the coach here. So got to get into the future. You got to get into the today with things. I don't care about, again, like I said, it doesn't need. I don't think you need them on there, but I don't care. I'm not going to go cry and go jump off of a cliff if they do it. I couldn't care less. Yeah. And the people that care that much about it, I'm like, why do you really care that much? See what comments on here. Jennifer, great comment. That jersey I'm talking about is a special jersey for Black History Month by Adidas. It's a cool look. If you look at that picture, you can see it. It's got some subtle striping going down it, piping, and then the Indiana is in white with highlighted around it. That's how you can. Oh, and then they've got red piping around the neck and just around the upper part of the shoulders. So there's that.
Okay.
There's Alan. There you go. It's about the name on the front, not the name on the back. Says who? Well, you want to bet? I guarantee you go back to some of those national championship teams, and it wasn't about, man, those guys are playing to win. I mean, the rah-rah stuff is all good, but at the end of the day, everybody's playing to win, to compete.
Mhm.
So, but that's what it is. Remember the Kentucky Wildcat logo had to be changed years ago because the tongue looked like, well, no, I don't remember that at all. Tony, it was better back in the day. Get off my yard. What was better back in the day? Which was? I missed. Which one were we talking about? Let's see. It's a sweet looking. Yeah, Jennifer likes it. Yeah, I do too. That is a good. Usually, throwback jerseys are not always great. That's a good. I like that. But you could tell a difference instantly as soon as I saw it. I'm like, whoa, that's different. But it does not. It's just a throwback jersey. It doesn't change anything. It's a good looking jersey.
And I don't want to say like. Well, my point is, if you don't like the jersey how it looks, that's one thing. I can totally get on board with you not liking how it looks. But my point is, just being upset over change is dumb.
Geronimo currently 22. There you go. Jordan Geronimo currently 22. That doesn't. They just throw him a jersey. I think maybe I don't know. Maybe that's the number he currently wears.
Okay.
So, see, there you got that. You got the jersey number thing. Pat Graham wore 32 all through high school, but he came here and he had to wear 33 because Eric Anderson had 32.
Mm-hmm.
Damon Bailey wore. What did he wear in high school? I don't remember. 32 also. Something like that. But he wore 22. Yeah, I think he was 32 in high school also, but he had to wear 22 because Eric Anderson may have still been here that 1 year. So, yeah, it's jersey numbers and all that stuff. David Peyton. Dang it, why is that coming up? Can't get there we go. The jerseys can be polka dotted for all I care. Just win. Exactly.
Great comment.
That is perfect.
Great comment.
That's what should matter.
Yep.
I mean, you don't want to look dumb, but not too. It's kind of hard to look dumb winning.
Exactly.
But please no polka dots. Yeah, I get it. But no, it's right on. No name jerseys, short shorts. It was all better in the day. Still on my yard. I'm getting the hose. Short shorts. Do you notice the shorts are getting shorter?
They are. Yeah, they're making a comeback. Not here.
I never liked the long shorts though. I don't want them all the way up to the 1970s, but I don't want them down to the Fab Five either. Those are damn capri pants, man.
You want like kneecap level, just above the kneecap or right at the kneecap.
No.
Okay.
I want them up on my thigh, man. But I'll tell you one thing I can't stand.
There's a word for that, but we won't use it.
Hey, we're late, aren't we? No, we're not late. We already got off radio
not late
today
for anything because
that's right. We can end whenever we want now. All right, last comment. A thing I can't stand, and the only guy that does it on the Indiana team is Trey Galloway because he's trying to make his shorts shorter. But all the girls do this is they roll their waistband over. But the thing is, now you're looking at the inside of the damn pants. That's not part of the uniform, and it looks dumb. And I don't like that. Get a shorter pair of shorts.
That is an interesting thing.
Or roll them to the inside so it doesn't look so dumb. You don't be rolling the damn seam of your pants over.
That is interesting that he chooses that instead of just ordering another. Maybe it was missized. Maybe that was all they had left.
I'm sure probably don't make them shorter than that anymore.
Oh, they have to. You're telling me he couldn't have ordered a shorter size?
Man.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, get him some Steve Alford and Joe Hillman. Maybe they still got some left over he can try.
There you go.
And then Alan asked, have you seen the comments about Calipari open to returning to the NBA? I have not.
Well, yes, I have.
But
He
guess
denied
what?
those comments, I'm pretty sure.
And guess who's been saying what's 2 years ago, I said that this upcoming season would be Calipari's last season in college basketball.
Could be.
Because the rule changes that were coming. And that was before the Adidas Nike thing, where they obviously lost all their help last year. So, again, I'm sticking to this season will be Calipari's last. We'll see, but I bet you. Well, man, it's been fun. I had a great time as always. Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I always look forward to this, and we always have a good show on Thursdays.
It's always fun, man. The fans are the greatest part of it, but cannot thank Chris Denari enough. Matt will be back, I don't know, a week or two. He's on vacation, but hey, guys, go out and have yourselves a fun day. It's going to be a beautiful day. Do something nice for somebody. Let's see. We've got the top 100 showcase. Somebody asked where that was earlier. I apologize. I think that is at Ben Davis High School. We'll get that information out on the site, though. But I think that's at Ben Davis High School, the top 100 showcase. The 18th and the 19th, the girls and then the boys. College coaches are there. I don't know if it's open to the public. That's the thing.
Yes,
but so there you go. You got that. That's going to wrap it up, man. It's been another fun one. I can't thank Dustin enough again. Appreciate you. Big thanks to Chris Denari. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got nothing to do. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.